Let's go, people. Let's get it. Let's get it done. Guys, from stream is live. Okay, and about 30 seconds later, we'll see it on Facebook. Oh, there it is. That was fast. Okay, we'll say like and share. Share now to Kirk, and then I'm going to go back to Kirk and share it to the TWiRT page. Share to a page to TWiRT, and sometimes this doesn't work very well. Yes, leave. One of the really cool things about being my first guest, you're responsible for the guest appearances for the rest of the show.
Oh, really? You gonna make me do that? You don't want me to be the poster child here.
All right, now is that going to work? Oh, come on, stop it with all the leave stuff. And now we'll go back to my page, and we'll share this over to how about the Broadcasting Club? Is that a good group? You like those people?
Oh yeah, all those smart guys in there.
Bunch of smart fellers.
That's what I'm told.
All right. Okay, I think we're shared everywhere. Now let me go back to wherever I'm supposed to be. I think we can. What's that? Yes, sir. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah. What is going on?
Well,
I
had a similar problem in Minneapolis. April 1st. It's like, oh, all the snow's gone, and I grilled the night before, and I wake up to 4 inches of ice and rain, and yeah, it was not pleasant. So I get it. I totally get it. So we're not in tornado season in my neck of the woods quite yet, but given how the rest of the country's going, it's going to be early.
I maybe didn't realize that you guys had that many tornadoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have the weirdness though because of Minnesota has a very large granite vein going through it.
Okay.
And the weather mythology is that tornadoes and weather just doesn't like granite for some reason. And with the Mississippi, the river valley coming through there, the air mass hits it and something happens and just dissipates or jumps.
Huh.
It's crazy.
Jeez. All right. Hey, I appreciate you keeping the lower third on or otherwise cropping such that my muffin top is less.
Right.
There's Mike Pappas. Woo! Hey. All right. I guess we're streaming, so we should maybe think about starting a show, right? I need to bring up my list of sponsors for today's show. That would be smart, so I'll know who to say hi to. If we go to that one, there we go. Air and then Bionics Virtual Rack. Do you know much about the Bionics Virtual Rack?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay. But you do know about virtualized technology.
A little bit.
bit.
I might know a thing or two.
Okay. Because you've seen a thing or two.
Yep.
All right.
I am the insurance guy.
All right. If you want to make us any tighter on the two shot, you're very welcome to, Mr. Suncast. That's as close as I can get the camera. But I'll leave that up to you. Can you take a single video source and make individual tight shots or not? I guess there wouldn't be a. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, it don't look great.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard that before.
I've heard this pills for that.
Why don't we start the show? You can cut all that stuff out, right? Anything that was untoward. Here we go with episode 742 for April 3rd, 2025. We're at the Tuscany Hotel and Suites and Conference Center and Satellite Dish Installation Company.
There might be a roulette table or something here.
That's right. So we'll start the show, and I guess Chris is not going to be with us. So I miss Chris. Okay. So we'll start the show. Hey, everybody live on the network. Glad you're here. Today's travel was amazing.
Were
And
you the last man on again?
no,
No?
no.
I thought you were trying to keep that streak running.
I don't do that when the plane's full.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, they tend to bump you at that level, don't they?
No, I got my status reinstated, so now I'm an early A, and so
Okay.
and they're fixing to change all that anyway to assigned seats, so it's like the fun's over.
Right. I mean, I did the same thing. It's like, hey, this time I'm not going to choose my seat. I'm just going to let it roll the dice, considering where we're going.
Yeah.
And I ended up middle of the plane over the wing anyway, so I'm perfect with an aisle seat.
Well, we'll start the show, episode 742 in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. Delighted to be here once again. I don't know, it's my 35th year or something like that in Las Vegas for the NAB convention. But before NAB, there's several other industry groups that decided, hey, let's have our convention at the same time or just before NAB. That way, our members will, likely already be here anyway, and we can have a convention, and they don't have to make 2 trips. They can just make an early trip. That's how it works, isn't it?
That's what I'm told. Remember not too long ago, probably about 10 years ago, where it was bookended with PREC and then TechCon on the other side.
That's right.
And then, so you would be here for 15 days for all these conventions. So sometimes it's like, yes, get them all out of the way at once versus, hey, I think I want to do this one over here, this one next month, because the wife really doesn't like it when I'm gone for half a month, let alone the boss, the other boss.
Tell you what, let's do a little role reversal on introductions. You take the mic and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alex Hartman, Kirk's not so gray fox hair counterpart, since Chris Starr couldn't be here today. I am one of the founding members and directors for Optimized Media Group. I work for Wisconsin Public Radio and KVSC in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Doing public radio pretty much my entire life. The whole family has done it. My mom, dad, sister. My brother, me and my brother went off to the other side of the world. I went to the other college radio versus a state radio network, and my brother worked for Nielsen. So we kind of understand a lot of it.
So your brother keeps tabs on what everybody else is doing.
Pretty much. He's the one he's the tattletale.
So Alex Hartman joins me. He's my first guest today. We got several guests coming up on This Week in Radio Tech. And I'm Kirk Harnack. I just flew into Las Vegas, and boy,
are your arms tired?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Way too easy.
Yeah, way too easy. But glad to join us. Thanks, Suncast. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to get into some tech talk. A few of the speakers at today's Public Radio Engineering Conference. And that's going on, behind that door?
Yep, behind that door over there, Florentine E, which is the room here at the Tuscany. There's over 100 registrants this year, so it's a pretty big show. For what do they call those? Scholarship winners. So some new engineers coming into the engineering community in the public sector, which we're severely lacking in industry-wide. So I'm glad to be here and witness these guys and help them foster along into their new careers.
One thing interesting about you, Alex, is you are here to listen, to partake, to find out what other people are talking about. But are you speaking at this one? Or okay?
No, I'm here to take in what everybody else has started to learn.
But oftentimes you are a speaker at this or other similar conventions.
Yep.
And so you talk about the things that you know about, and you've done a lot. I mean, you're interested in a lot of technologies. Would you say that there's any overriding theme among the speakers at this year?
It's actually an interesting thing this year where the topics are kind of broad, but the one focus is bringing in those new engineers. So you've got Rob from InRush up there giving a presentation right now discussing how InRush works. You've got OMG and us providing technology support for this conference. You got other guys out there that are doing this whole thing, where a lot of us engineers that have now started getting into, the Gray Fox era have said, there's nobody behind us. We got to figure this out, and started kind of collaborating together nationally and saying, hey, I'm not in your area. You give Rob over at InRush a call, or vice versa. Hey, I've got the station. You just refer them to these engineering groups for stations who just maybe can't afford to have a full-time guy, or their full-time guy retired after 60 years of work.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's that focus on the up and coming or lack thereof, and trying to pool those resources to bring more in instead of compartmentalizing. It seems to be a very good message this year.
So when I cruised through the room a couple times, had some lunch, thank you very much. And I know, well, company I work for, Telos Alliance, is a sponsor of the show. So
Yep. And OMG sponsored lunch, so you're welcome for the
well,
taco.
thank you very much. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick first break here and hear from a technology company called Air, AIIR.com, air.com, and my friend Ricky Lee is going to be talking about streaming. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of Air. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with Air.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month, all you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through Air?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming, and from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Hey, we're back at This Week in Radio Tech. Thank you, Air, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Really appreciate you very much. And I must say, my companies, the different radio stations we have, we are happy users of Playout One. Just got a little bit of tech support today, as a matter of fact. Love those guys.
Speaking of, how's the stations in Maui?
Well, they're working.
Good.
We're actually having, interesting you ask, we're having a satellite dish problem. And the one and only guy who is scheduled to go back there and can deal with it, he's going to go back there. But we didn't put a 5G filter on the dish.
Ooh, yeah, you need those.
Well, most of our stations are in rural areas,
Right.
and interference has not been an issue that we know of at all. But this is in Kahului, where close to downtown, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in rural Minnesota, where I'm at, you'd be surprised how many 5G little rooftop towers are popping up that you didn't think you were going to be get interference from.
Oh,
In rural downtown areas.
Let's talk about that for a second. It's not really a big topic here because it was a topic a 3 years ago. But stations who did not install 5G filters, either through getting money from the government for doing so, money that was, I guess, paid by the cell companies, or hiring a contractor. There were contractors went all over the country installing these. Let's talk about that because our experience had been we had not needed one yet. We foolishly installed a satellite dish. Moved a satellite dish to the top of a new building, and it worked most of the time. It worked when we left.
Yep,
and
exactly.
Then it stopped.
Warranty ended when you left the door, right?
Yeah.
So that is becoming more and more of a thing as they're starting to roll out more of these microcells, and like Verizon specifically with their 60 gig service and stuff like that, because a piece of paper can stop 60 gig. So those filters are actually pretty key in keeping those satellites in check. Also, and pay attention to what the FCC is doing, where they want to go more into the C-band again for that. And there's an NPRM available today that the FCC has put out for comments on what impact that might have. Because, again, no one uses C-band, right? No one? Okay. Everybody uses C-band.
Yeah.
They found that out with this original one, but they want to expand more into cellular coverage of that C-band that they already reserved for us. So I'm guessing the guys who run those space-time operations might have a few words.
I'm guessing that C-band use is what you might call infrastructure use. It's not used by end consumers. It's not used by mega huge cellular companies. It's extremely important because it supports most, or at least a lot, of the stuff that you see on TV or hear on radio.
Right. And you pay attention to things like I'm sure everybody watches the news lately, just because of the way the world is today. But you see them using similar products like what we got going on here, where half a world away is a half a second jump over IP, but that satellite system is almost instantaneous. So satellite is still very relevant even today for live programming. So, and even file-based programming, but live programming is where satellite still reigns supreme.
Of course, it's kind of interesting. At Telos Alliance, we actually worked on a product a few years ago that would have allowed, with good technical prowess, allowed networks to distribute terrestrially over the internet with conditional access, with verification that something at least had been received.
Sure.
And we were working on dual path, if you wanted that. And at that time, the program suppliers we spoke with were not so interested. They said, we have really good satellite rates.
Yeah.
And now the same networks are telling us that we don't really have such good satellite rates. We might be looking for an alternative. And one of the shows, and the show I'm going to mention has nothing to do with public radio,
right,
the convention we're at, but it's a show called Liveline. It's put out by John Garabedian's company. The host is Mason Kelter, and it is a live delivered, I think it's a 5-hour show delivered via internet. And yes, it ends up getting delayed about 6 seconds overall, but you know exactly the 6 seconds.
Right.
You get it delivered exactly when they say it will get delivered.
Yeah, everything built in that 6-second difference.
And they've also built in, so your automation doesn't have to do it, reduces complexity. All your magic calls are built into the computer at the station end. And so it's less work. You just have to, in fact, you send them the magic call, they put it in your computer.
Oh.
You still have to break away for commercials.
Sure.
But anyway, my point is that, and it's just a little computer running Windows 10, and it's just a command line.
And there's the evolution of satellite technology. I mean, you realize those satellites that are up in the sky have been there 20, 30 years, and technology has obviously moved really fast in that time. So while trying to utilize that technology and get that life out of it, here on the ground, where it's a lot easier to send a new receiver, for instance, and just change what's up there, there's limitations, obviously, of what the satellite itself can do to maintain compatibility or even move forward, like with this internet delivery system you're talking about. But that being said, satellite has sun fade versus backhoe fade, but at least the sun's predictable. The Fiber Hunter 9000 is not. So at any given point, Jeff Welton was popular for saying, if you ever get lost in the woods, make sure you have a piece of fiber in your pocket. Just lay it on the ground, and in about 10 minutes, someone will be there to dig up a piece of fiber, and you'll be fine.
It's bait for the Fiber Hunter
Yes,
9000.
Bait, yes. So in that respect, I see a place, whether it's commercial, non-commercial, for both technologies to coexist, very much so.
Well, and I guess the major suppliers like Skyview, Premier, Westwood One, they offer terrestrial internet backup for their feeds. And in fact, at our stations in Maui, we've just decided to use that backup until either I or the other engineer can get out there to install the 5G filter.
Yep, and I always operate under the power of 3. So you have your primary, your backup, and your tertiary backup. Because if you get into your tertiary backup, you probably should be there because something else is seriously wrong.
Yeah.
So if you have those 3 diverse connections of some kind, whether it's a fiber, a cellular, or satellite type of system, by the time you hit tin can and string, you probably should go check things.
Well, let's talk about Alex Hartman and your projects. What's been occupying your mind and your hands and your thoughts lately on engineering?
So in public radio, don't know if you know this, and everybody keeps telling me, well, you should just bought the files. We have a really big CD library in public radio. Oh. A lot of stations still operate in that realm of, KVSC, we have 83,000 pieces of CDs in our library, and we use that for about 15 hours of our broadcast day. So it's still heavy use. But find a CD player today, or go to any of the classical big network, state network stations. A lot of those classic albums from years past were all put out in CDs. CDs next to LPs were the most popular media format for 40 years. So they're everywhere. But like a lot of technology stuff, the Renaissance has come around, right? So they fell out of favor. No one's making CD players, much like cassette decks or record players, where they're starting to make a comeback in the consumer realm. But as broadcasters, we can't use that consumer piece because it's missing certain components like remote trigger starts and some metadata features that we utilize as broadcasters that the old CD players used to give us, but the new ones, they'd remove that. So me and our good friend Leif Clayson, I went over there to his house in Thailand in November, and
this was not just across the street, was it?
No, this was a 24-hour one-way trip. It is not just a jaunt to the grocery store. So but we sat down and we were looking at some software specifically for the Telos products, and brainstorming some ideas. And we stopped and looked at a library, and I'm like, wait a second. I've needed a CD player for a very long time, and this library he uses for something else had CD player controls. So we are introducing Breakaway CD from his Breakaway audio processor line, Breakaway 1. So I made a CD player that looks like a 3-deck, the Denon 3-deck, that is just a CD player that uses standard CD drives you can buy on Amazon, the USB CD drives.
Oh, the external
Yeah.
USB CD drives.
Yes.
Oh, it
Or you
uses
can
those.
or you can use the SATA ones inside of a rack mount chassis if you want to put it in a rack.
Okay. Okay.
So it's native live wires.
You told me
So
about this
yeah,
before, and I'm not sure. I guess I got that at the time, but I forgot.
yeah.
So just the little slim things if you
Yeah.
want, right?
If you want, I mean, meantime before failure. But at $20, if
Yeah.
it dies,
Yeah.
go get another one, right? And they still manufacture those today because the data portion is still very prolific for computers,
Okay.
especially in business.
Is there a trick to getting those to play audio, or
There is actually, because Redbook was a standard written back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And a lot of that code that we all remember and know and love, okay, here's my gray hair coming out from Windows 95, Windows 3.11. Remember the CD player app? The transport controls to control a CD for music? All of that was removed as legacy code from the programming languages. So you couldn't make a CD player.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, and I'm like, we need to make a CD player because CD players are still a problem to find in specifically public radio. But all over the place. I mean, I ask a lot of people in the commercial radio realm, why would I ever need a CD player? I'm like, well, when was the last time you installed one? Oh, last week because a computer crashed. So you do still have that need, because go to any radio station, there's still a dozen CDs sitting there.
I got to ask you, is this a product that's available now or soon?
Soon, very soon.
Okay.
We're going to offer 2 different versions. We're going to have the triple deck on air type system,
Right.
and then I'm going to make one that's a single deck for a production person. So if you want to, it's a CD player that's going to kill itself, because the next version that I'm going to release, we're looking at the way of ripping the disc while you play the song. So it'll put it out on your NAS, and then you can have your automation library go pick out your songs that you want to import into automation, and it naturally fixes the problem of did you digitize your library?
Is there a web page I can point people to yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Coming soon, it will be breakawaysoftware.com, as we are relaunching the entire Breakaway line.
Okay.
So
That's significant.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We're going to have you back. I realized that I double booked my next guest.
Oh, well,
So
you might have to have 2 of them in here. Sit them on each other's lap.
If you could get them to argue about, we're going to do a little bit of a commercial together, and then I'm going to take over.
Okay.
This we're going to switch gears here real quick and talk about virtualization of broadcast infrastructure. You are the granddaddy of doing this.
For radio, yes.
radio, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
for broadcasting to specific.
I'm not blowing smoke here when I say you're a clever guy and you work on things until you understand them and get them done. And you've done some pretty remarkable virtualization with, off the shelf, used, refurbished servers. And, maybe to you, it's kind of easy. It's not easy for a lot of us.
No, it's not. It actually is a very complex system, and wrapping your mind, going from a physical world to a virtual world. It's really easy to grab an Ethernet cable here and here and do that in the virtual realm and keep that one straight over here, but there's nothing to physically grab. So keeping it all straight in your head is very difficult.
So I'm going to do the rest of the commercial for Broadcast Bionics Virtual Rack, and I hope that you get a chance to stop by their booth and let them demo it to you, see what you think. I know you're going to think, well, they took this shortcut or it doesn't have this flexibility, but does it do what people need?
Well, that's the question, right? Does it cover the 90%? Yeah. That's my biggest metric is, does this tool fix 90% of the problem? Because the other 10% can be made up with other tools.
See if they'll do okay. There's just one of them list now. The problem fixed itself. Okay. All right. Stand by. Come on over and stand by. We got a new guest. We're getting rid of this guest. We got a new guest. But Suncast, go ahead and bring up the page for Broadcast Bionics. This is your entire air chain can be in one place, because not only do they have products from Telos Alliance that go virtually into the virtual rack from Broadcast Bionics, but there's also products from Ferncast, Sound4, and 2WCOM. So it's not just a walled garden for Telos Alliance. No. This is these are virtual products, and it's kind of like an app store. You buy the virtual rack, which is a server, and it comes in 2 different sizes, like medium and large. and each one will run a different number of appliances. And then there's like a little app store, if you will. I mean, they're all free apps, free to install, not free to use, right? So you click a button within literally 60 seconds to 2 minutes. It'll download the files necessary to make these containerized products. They'll install. You can run them, and then according to whichever manufacturer, according to whatever their rules are, like some things from Telos, you can run them, but you'll get noise and beeps and squawks,
Right, yeah,
stuff
the license, yeah,
stuff you don't want until you buy a license. You can also, of course, set the IP addresses, set passwords, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of stuff happens under the hood with Virtual Rack. Now, I got to tell you, when Telos first started thinking about how to sell virtualized broadcast infrastructure, we had this kind of thing in mind, but honestly, we decided to go a different route. We decided to have people pay us for remote installation services, custom installation. And the guys at Broadcast Bionics, they said, you know what? I think we can front end this and make it installable by the end user. And in most cases, it's going to work fine. So they did that. Now, I got to tell you, our smart engineers at Telos were a little skeptical at first.
I would be too.
And so, yeah, I figured. And so they see if they just sit down and have coffee or tea with Dan McQuillan, they'd realize this was a real thing. I did that. And he was a guest on the show, but he showed us over and over how this works, how you can have backup systems, you can have failover, you can make changes on the fly if you need to. And he really demonstrated that this really does work. Sure, there's cases where it may not be the exact best solution, but you can take care of this yourself because you're like dealing with a friend. Like when you install an app on your iPhone, there's a million things you don't worry about because it does it for you.
Right.
And I realize that containers can be complicated, but these guys at
The containers aren't complicated. The container system itself adds the complexity.
Well,
So that's always been the bigger problem with a lot of these things where they say container. Like, cool, are you a Docker networking expert? Because I'm not, and I've been doing this a while. So that if they've solved that under the hood problem with some kind of enter your IP address, what kind of we know this container has this requirement. We've pre-configured that. If that has been solved, that's actually a really good easy button.
I think Bionics has given you a road, a path, and they've also given you guardrails so that you can't hurt yourself. And hey, if you have a special problem and they need to come in remotely and do something for you, they can do that too. So it's the Virtual Rack. You can see it at the NAB show starting this Sunday. I've been in on a couple demonstrations. I was really blown away. It looks like a really good solution for people who are not experts at containerized software, because you don't have to be. Just like I'm not an expert at how my iPhone works internally. It just
Don't
does.
feel bad. Neither am I on the iPhone. So
Hey, thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks,
being with
Kirk.
us. I appreciate you very much. Alex is going to make room for John George, the beloved John George. Here he is. You're missing something. The lovely Eloise.
Oh, I am missing the lovely Eloise. She's she's driving home from work about this time on the East Coast.
Okay. Well, let's see. What is my wife doing right now? Oh my goodness, she is getting ready for bed in Spain.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
She's about 9 hours ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
Well, hey, welcome in or welcome back this week in Radio Tech. By the way, I need to mention our show has brought you in part by Broadcast Bionics. There's a link in the show notes to Broadcast Bionics. You really ought to check them out, not only for Virtual Rack, but for the other software products that make your station run really, really well. John, I have brought a cup of iced tea here. The ice is melted, but I need what's in this cup right here. Would you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, all right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm John George, of course. I wear multiple hats. Have the RF Specialties operation in the Southeast. I just rotated off the board not long ago of Public Radio Engineers. I served on the board and president of the Association of Federal Communications Consulting Engineers for a few years back during COVID. That was an experience. I have a contract company called Broadtech Services, and we actually provide services for states of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and provide FCC type inspections called the Alternative Broadcast inspection
Yeah, is that
program.
the ABIP?
ABIP,
Okay.
that's exactly right. And my fun job is I work with the University of South Carolina student radio station, WUSC.
Aha.
So,
Aha.
so that keeps me busy.
So how are people most likely to come in contact with John George? You need a RF Specialties, something you guys sell?
Well, I would say it would be a combination of RS Specialties and Broadtech Services.
I'm gonna hold that for
Oh,
you.
good.
My producer's yelling at me, Kirk, you need to get on the microphone. So between RF Specialties and Broadtech.
Right.
Yeah. Where are you headquartered out of?
Lexington, South Carolina.
What's that near?
Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost in the middle of the state.
Now, when I referred to John that he forgot something, he left it behind, I said the lovely Eloise. I bring that up because if you follow John on Facebook, you realize his wonderful relationship with his wife, Eloise. How often do you take that young lady out to dinner?
We try to do it at least once a week.
Okay.
Except when I'm on the road for a couple of weeks
Yeah,
in a row. So we came out last weekend, some friends and myself, and went up to Zion Canyon Park. And so Thursday before we left, it was date night.
Let me ask you a last question. We got another guest coming in here. I'm a two-parter. Let's take, for example, your Broadtech services.
Yeah.
What area of broadcast engineering and consulting do people put an emphasis on these days? What are you getting questions about?
Well, it's a combination of things: telephone and audio consoles, and of course transmitters. I mean, it kind of comes in waves, but as we just finished listening to a seminar a few minutes ago, telephone has become a major issue in broadcast facilities because POTS lines are going away or have already gone away, and people are trying to deal with that. And not to get into the commercial side, but y'all have a very good product that I've used a lot, the VX system. And transmitters, our company represents Nautel.
Yep.
And so those are the major things that we're dealing a lot with. And of course, on the inspection side with Broadtech, we find a lot of stations they're so close to having it right all the time, but they miss a lot of little things. So EAS is a big issue as far as compliance goes. And tower lights, for example. You wouldn't think that would be too much of a problem, but it is for a lot of stations.
Really? Okay.
So,
well, we'll keep our eyes open for those. I want to put links to Broadtech and to our specialties in there. And we have a deal with Nautel. At my employer, Telos, our agreement is we don't make phone systems that transmit, and they don't make transmitters that answer the phone.
I understand.
Otherwise, we work together great.
Yeah, very well, very well. So,
John, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
It's good to see you and good to talk to you. We'd love to have you on for a whole show sometime, but good to see you, man.
Appreciate
All right, take care. I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm here at the Tuscany Suites and Conference Center here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm here for the PREC, Public Radio. Come on in, Public Radio Engineering Conference. Yes, our guests go in and out on camera because we only have one camera. That's right. No, we don't have a camera too. How many cameras you got in there?
We have 3 cameras in there. They're all remote operated, so they're all three 4K RoboCams.
There you are, firing people with technology again.
Exactly. I'm firing something. No, we pride ourselves on the quality of the production of this thing. I bring in a full video production crew that are part of my company to come in here and do that as part of our support of public radio and public radio engineers.
I've kind of jumped the gun here. I should say, this is my friend and yours, Jim Gray. Jim is principal at Optimized Media Group,
Yes.
OMG.
OMG, yes.
And I'm part owner of OMG as well. It's
Yes.
just a different OMG.
I've run into a few people that are using that acronym.
It's so good.
It worked. That was our thing. Was we were put in place by a lot of these clients to find ways of operating in a less expensive way, but without sacrificing quality and functionalities. So
at OMG, I know you develop products for the broadcast industry, right?
and we do this out of necessity. So we start off primarily as integrators and primary engineering. So we currently do primary engineering for about 65 stations, give or take. And in our business of doing that, we've run into these common problems that we see at a lot of different places. And we got to a spot where it's like, well, why don't we make something that we can just use to fix that? Yeah. And that's where having Alex Hartman at our disposal and Leif Clayson, we were able to develop some products that are helpful with that. Our Babelfish ecosystem for control and GPIO and stuff like that is a big piece of it. We now have our new software-based line coming out. I don't know if Alex spilled the beans on that one for you yet when he was in here earlier.
Well, he mentioned the CD, but
that's the Breakaway CD is the first piece of that. But we are revitalizing the Breakaway product from Leif Clayson and some of the other associated things that Leif has been affiliated with, MPX tool and some things like that. Really? You're going to see new versions, updated versions, more tricks and things like that, because again, these are all things that I see a need for in the clients that I work with. So if it works for my clients, I bet you there's other people that might want it too.
Now, if I can make a suggestion, what I need is a version of MPX tool that I pre-program my FM frequencies in a market. And whenever I measure those and show them to the FCC inspector, mine all read 10% lower than they really are.
You could probably put a load in the line, I guess, maybe. I'm trying to think of how we do that, but yeah, sure.
If I said that 20 years ago, that would be pretty valid. I think we're not in quite so much of a modulation war typically. Right. Some markets may still be.
Oh, believe me, I've run into several things. I do an initial visit at a site, and it's like, oh look, 140%, isn't that cute?
So since you and your crew are multimedia-ing this conference, so people can participate remotely, and you really do have your ear to the pulse of the presentations, what engineers are talking about. What do you find is either concerning, worrying, or what are the public radio engineers kind of focused on these days? What's on their mind?
The whole broadcast industry, the media industry, is in a moment of stress over finding ways to be more sustainable long term, financially, and finding the right product to offer. So the engineering is an integral piece of that. So you can say, I want to do a thing, and then it's my job to figure out how to make that thing happen. So we've seen a lot of presentations on how to better track data on things, streaming and otherwise, and then how to potentially monetize that and work other forms other than just broadcast over the air. Work some of that stuff into your monetization, and things like that. Improving quality of the content that's coming out, like audio quality and stuff. Being able to get your signal into more places and those kind of things. And that's one piece of it. The other piece of it that is, it's kind of like this like elephant in the room that's always there, that seems to work its way into a lot of these different presentations, is cool, we'd like to do this. Who's doing this for us? And where are the people coming from? And in fact, that's the focus of our Night Owl specifically tonight, 7 o'clock, where we have a nice panel of people to talk about kind of the state of the industry and the state of engineering, and then find a way of how are we going to feed into that. Rob Bertram just had a great presentation moments ago about, if we can't find the right people, or enough people, maybe we need to rethink how engineering is done across the industry, which, he actually mentioned my company in his presentation unexpectedly, about, what InRush is doing, and what we do. You don't have an engineer because your engineer retired. You don't go and necessarily hire a new engineer. You find a contract engineering firm that can provide that, and there's an efficiency of scale in doing so. So maybe that's an answer. It's not the answer that everybody's looking for. We need people. We need more people coming in. But that is a piece of that balance.
I see a little bit of a parallel with, let's imagine, ownership of a large office building in a big city, and you used to have a handyman, but maybe you had a full-time plumber for your building, and maybe you had a full-time electrician for your building. You certainly had a full-time elevator operator, or more than one, for your building. And that all went away decades ago. You hire companies to come in and handle those things, and maybe plumbing is more reliable than it used to be. right? But I don't know. There's a myriad of reasons, but I kind of see, like you, broadcast in being that same way. And hey, I was contract when contract wasn't cool. Back in 1984, I ventured out on my own contract engineering business and took care of close to 100. I mean, not took care, but 100 stations would call me over time, and I would take care of them. So, and then with the Telecom Act of '96, I saw even more reason to do this. Anyway, I'm delighted that your company is finding success with that model, and as engineers are retiring, are you standardizing systems more even across stations?
Yeah, it's it's the whole when you bring in a consultant, they give you this great plan, and you're like, wow, this is a perfect fit for me. Fact is that's the plan that consultant has done at many other stations and proven that it worked. And every one of us have our own flavor of things to bring in to do that. So yes, I'm standardizing a lot of things to me. I can walk into any of my plants and know exactly what the IP is of every device there because it's based on the frequency of the station. And
my gosh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so the frequency of the station and its function equals the IP of everything in the place. So I have ways of standardizing things across that, and it makes it really efficient for my team to walk into any space and just know where everything
All right,
is.
on a future show, you've got to describe that to me, which octet you put the frequency in, or how that works. I want to understand that, but not today, because we have our next guest is up next. Jim, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you taking the time.
Always love TWiRT.
And thank you. Appreciate that very much. That means a lot.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack this week in Radio Tech, and we're getting ready to take a quick break as our next guest makes his way in here. Our next guest just gave a presentation, so that is fresh on his mind, or should be. So come on over, Rob, whenever it's convenient. Hey, our show is brought to you in part. Yeah, have a seat. Have a seat right here. Oh, Rob.
Wasn't sure how live this was going to be.
Oh, well, it's live, but we cut out any bad parts for the published version. So our producer, Suncast, who's listening right now, he listens for things where where Kirk messes up, and he cuts that out. So,
Well, prepare for lots of cutting, Suncast.
that's right. Hey, our show, we got to do a commercial first, real quick, and pay a bill. And if you feel like chiming in, you're welcome to. But this is a product that I believe in from Henry Engineering. Henry Engineering makes a number of things that people have found very useful over the years, including the Henry Super Relay. But this, Hank Landsberg finds ways to put relays in everything. And this is the back UPS. Now, I've got several equipment racks with some equipment has 2 power supplies. And so I have 2 power strips for the 2 power supplies. Easy peasy. One power strip is on the UPS, the other one maybe is not. But I've got some equipment that it just can't be helped. It has 1 power supply, and I need for that equipment to not go off. So what do? I use the back UPS. It is a super fast switching selector for what power source is going to be on. You use one of these per rack typically because it handles up to 15 amps. Maybe you need 2 for a rack with a lot of stuff in it. But the back UPS will take 2 power inputs, typically 1 from your UPS and 1 from your commercial shore power that's not on UPS, or maybe from a second UPS if you want to do it that way. And so if you need to change the batteries on your UPS, if you need to run a test, maybe you need to run a battery test, some kind of test where the power from the UPS goes off and you want your equipment, not to reboot, right? Whether it's a computer or an Ethernet switch, some of those Ethernet switches take 4 or 5 minutes to reboot. Well, the back UPS will keep power going, especially to your single power supply devices. That's what I love about this. It just works. You can also set a delay response time. So let's say that your UPS dies, you're on commercial power, UPS comes back. Should you switch right over to it immediately? Maybe not. Maybe you want to wait a minute or 2 or 30 seconds, whatever you feel comfortable with. You can put that into a dip switch and decide how much time it's going to take for it to come back. The back UPS, designed by Hank Landsberg at Henry Engineering, I think I've probably put, half a dozen of these things into my radio station so far, and they have saved my bacon several times, especially when I accidentally hit the off switch on the UPS. So this takes care of it. Thanks a lot, Hank Landsberg, and you can get a back UPS or 1 for each of your racks from Broadcasters General Store. BGS.cc is the website. And you can call them at 352-622-7700. The back UPS from BGS. All right, it's Kirk Harnack here at the Public Radio Engineering Conference. Rob Bertrand, hey, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Kirk.
And you are with a company called InRush.
Yes, I'm a partner with InRush Broadcast Services based out of Chicago. I am still based out of DC,
Okay.
but our main office is in Chicago.
So I got to ask, I only heard a few snippets of your presentation. What did you talk about?
Well, I obviously have a bias here, but my talk was really about how this is the way that broadcast engineering survives. And I think I might have overheard you talking about how you were a contractor earlier in your career. I'll tell you, I did a couple of months of that in between my last full-time gig and this one. And I realized pretty quickly, even though there was an enormous demand, it was just really hard to keep up with all of it. And it was really hard to find life balance in it. And I'm only 3 months in as a partner with InRush. But what's pretty incredible is that not only do I work with a diverse group of smart people, meaning that I may be deep in some areas and there are others on the team who are deeper in other areas, and we kind of all balance each other out. But we also, give each other the chance to have a real life. And collectively across the whole of broadcast engineering, we are able to serve more people and we're able to clock out, which is a great thing. One of the slides that I shared was a photo of our team. And one of the things that I'm really proud of them for, and I take no credit for this all happened before I got there, they turned out 10 brand new young broadcast engineers out of college over the last 4 years. I think that if you were to look at most of our industry associations that have been working real hard to bring in young talent, that might be about 10 people as well.
Across the whole industry
Across the whole industry, across, in these really high level efforts. And so what made that possible for them, made it necessary, was that they had a business imperative to do that. And it's really different. As you've worked to feed yourself and your family as a contractor at points in your life, it's really different if you've got to make something happen in order to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, put food on the table, whatever, versus you think something might be a good idea because there's a threat coming. We know that there is a broadcast engineering shortage and we need more, but we also have all these other things that we have to do right now. Well, if your business is solving that broadcast engineering shortage right now, guess what? You solve the problem. And so the folks at InRush had been building relationships with college stations for some time, taking care of them. But also they'd realize, hey, frequently we'd get like 1 or 2 kids who were the ones that were always calling for help. And they would ask them to do, reboot something or swap something. And they would eventually realize, hey, this kid's kind of, intuitive at this, and hey, would you like an internship? And that was the basis for a lot of our staff. And it's really exciting to be in the office with all of those people and that energy and just realize I have never ever been in a room like this in our industry my whole career.
Wow.
So yes, I'm really excited to be a part of it. I think this is how we grow the next generation of talent and how we continue to serve stations, because we're not going to be able to do that kind of development at the local station level, given the state of the industry.
I think I see partly why this can work well, and that's when you are bringing an intern or somebody with interest into a company like InRush that already has systems for backup people. In other words, an intern doesn't have to drink from a fire hose, maybe mentally, but not physically. They're not expected to be on call at 2 a.m. unless they sign up for the overnight shift, right?
And that's exactly it. So we have systems in place that are able to rotate the on-call amongst people, and we don't just throw you in, you get some time. And, yes, everybody shares in that burden, but you're sharing in a burden. You're getting, a week in a sequence of weeks, depending on how many people we have on staff. It varies over time. Now that I'm there, I have to admit, I haven't started my on-call rotation. I know I'm next into the pool. I haven't forgotten, but it's at least just a week. And, I was in senior management for the last 15 years. I wasn't the first call. And I know that this is going to take a little getting used to, that I will, for 1 week, every however many chunk of weeks, I'm going to be the first call. And I'm going to have to be doing that. But you know what? It's just 1 week as opposed to always. If you are a contractor and you are the one that your client is reaching out for, it is always you. And so this is a way for people to also not get overwhelmed by that coming through the door. Because if you're brand new out of college and you're, being fed to the lions, is this really a career that I want to stick around and do?
Yeah, that was my point. I looked back literally 40 years ago when I was starting to hire my first few people, and I realize now that when they would ask, "Well, when do I have to work?" I said, "Well, just like me, you're 24/7. That doesn't mean you work 24/7, but you're expected to answer the call 24/7, and that's not conducive to bringing new people in."
It's not. And, what I've really enjoyed seeing at InRush is the willingness of the staff to back each other up. So everyone understands what the situation is. And we use Slack as our messaging application. Right. And so frequently I'll see messages go out from one staff member or another who is in an on-call state saying, hey, I need time to do X, Y, or Z. Can someone cover me for this chunk of time? Usually not 5 minutes goes by. Often less than a minute. And when somebody else will raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll take that.
Oh, wow.
Because they know that it will come around. And, that is the way of the world today, I think, is being able to provide that opportunity for people and give them the chance to still have a life while also, working hard and doing right by our stations.
Thinking about InRush, thinking about how you guys serve and talk with public radio engineers, what is there a theme? Is there a kind of a common thread in what people are asking about nowadays? Either technologically or just in a work balance. Hey, can we hire you guys to be on call when our guy's on vacation, or he's going to get 50% time off? I don't know, whatever it may be. What are people concerns they bring to you?
I mean, I think that the biggest call that I'm getting in public media is workflow. And so we kind of take that for granted, like, well, it's a radio station. Surely it knows how to work, right? Well, if you've been in radio, you may know that that's not always a given. And, again, if you are, let's say, a staff engineer, and you are the only one, because there's just no more resources for there to be more than you are putting out so many fires day after day after day after day. Do you have the time to go and figure out exactly what needs to happen for the station to operate the way that it should? Probably not. And one day you might just get fed up enough with being the firefighter constantly that you leave or something else happens. So we're often getting calls from stations who have, for whatever reason, lost their engineer through retirement or departure, and they're like, we don't know how to make it work. And when I say make it work, it usually comes down to, we can't get the right content on the air at the right time, or our talent is complaining about this problem or that problem. And we have a client that we're just about to start an engagement with. It actually took 45 minutes talking to the general manager for me to even know why he had called. And I think for him to even know why he had called, because it started with, it's not working and we have somebody retiring and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, what's not working? And he started talking about the transmitters. And I said, okay, well, we can help you with that. Well, no, it's not really about the transmitters. And, we kept going. I said, okay, so it's really about this and this and this. And he said, yeah. I said, okay, well, that's good, because those are all systems that we know really well. So we can come in and we can help you figure out what's going on. And if some work needs to be done, we'll give you a proposal to do the work. But it starts with coming in and figuring out what's happening. I had that conversation, I don't know, a little over 2 months ago. I now have 4 clients that we're doing exactly that same work for. So what happens beyond that? Well, it's going to vary a little bit. In some cases, it's going to be automation. In some cases, it's going to be reprogramming their audio over IP network. And that's where we can really shine.
Got to believe, one more question before we got to go, that standardization of some kind, getting some, so that every facility isn't just completely different from all the others. It's got to be very helpful for this business model of a company like InRush to be able to go in and have different people on call with InRush to not spend most of their time figuring out how it's supposed to work.
Getting down to a point of it being truly supportable, we're going to have to standardize on a couple of manufacturers and systems. The good news is that there's not that many manufacturers and systems out there, whether we're talking audio over IP or automation. And so we do want clients to have choice. We need to be equally conversant in each of these manufacturers. And InRush was already on that path before I got there, that they really pride themselves on being agnostic as to which manufacturer they support. They do a good job with all of them. And the same is true of the frontline staff. So the more that we can get people away from legacy technologies, consoles that are analog, well, guess what? They're not really remote supportable.
No, they're not. Yeah.
We can troubleshoot anything if it's IP. But if it's hardwired analog, well, if you want us to support you, we're going to need to upgrade your console. Might be really basic to start if that's where the budget starts, but you're going to have to be on something that we can get to with a computer as sort of a basis for remote support.
Glad to hear you go in this direction. I want to hear more, and I would be excited to review what you presented and hear what you have to say maybe next year, or have you and some of your partners as a guest on our show. I think it'd be very good.
Thanks very much for the invitation. It was great to see you.
Rob, thank you very much.
Take care.
That is Rob Bertrand. He's with InRush, and they are. You guys are a sponsor here or a speaker? Or,
I was a speaker.
Okay.
Speaker.
Good deal. All right, we're gonna your partners with Sean Dolan.
With Sean, yes.
Are you two the principals? You have another.
There's actually 5 of us.
Oh, 5.
There's 5 of us. So yeah, it's me and Mike and Sean and Cameron and Brian.
And there'll be a test later. I got to do a commercial, and if you could tag Ralph Hogan, that would be great.
I will do that.
He's our last guest over. Oh wait, no, Scott Hanley's. Sorry. Go ahead, Scott. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. We're at the Tuscany Suites and Conference Center here in Las Vegas for This Week in Radio Tech. Got a couple of different companies to tell you about. You know them if you've watched or listened to our show very much at all. One of them is Angry Audio. And man, I love this company, and a lot of people do. Why? Because they make things for broadcast that we need. They make, you might say they make dongles and doodads. Of course, they make studio hub adapters and connectors, but they also make more sophisticated gear. And one of those items is a small but very powerful and very sturdy and very rugged audio console. It's the Rave from Angry Audio. The Rave console has 8 faders, although there's a total of 10 faders on the console. Why? Because 2 of them are for your monitor volume and your headphone volume. So it's 8 faders. 4 of them can be mic or line. The 4 others are line level inputs. It has a mix minus bus, so you can feed your codec. You can feed your telephone hybrid. It's of course got preview. The thing that you probably need to know the most about this console is it is heavy duty. It's sturdy. It's super well made. If you just put your hands on this console, run your hands across the top, which is heavy duty steel. The labels on the console are all laser etched, and that means they're not going away. You're not going to look at this console in 10 years and say, hey, that thing's looking pretty old. Nope. You clean it off, it's going to look just like new. It is absolutely beautiful. High quality, aircraft quality switches. And of course, all the inputs and outputs are on the Studio Hub connectors. That means you can wire this with Cat5 cabling. Now, that cabling is carrying analog audio in the Studio Hub format. The mic inputs are XLRs because people expect that. The Rave audio console from Angry Audio. If you're coming to NAB, go see Angry Audio and see what they have to offer. And there's a new version of the Rave coming out. You're going to want to find out more about that. Thanks a lot, Angry Audio, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Also, our show is brought to you in part by Max Connect and Max Connect Wireless. I've got a short testimonial here from John Takak. He's going to tell you why Max Connect Wireless has really helped their company in staying connected to their transmitter sites.
With all of the recent cybersecurity attacks against large corporations, we were looking for a product that would give us the ultimate security at our transmitter sites and as well as with our broadcast equipment. Max Connect fits the bill very well. Its greatest security feature is the fact that it gives you a single static IP address. Using this single static IP address allows us to close hundreds of open ports on our firewalls across the company and restrict access to only the Max Connect IPs. This has greatly reduced our exposure to the World Wide Web and made us much more secure moving forward. It has also given us the ability to expand as needed in a secure fashion.
That's John Takak talking about Max Connect Wireless. And you can go to their website, Max Connect. I know it's spelled funny, MAXXKONNECT.com. There's a link in the show notes. You can find out about how Max Connect Wireless can help you. Also, now with their satellite backup, either satellite for main or satellite for backup, your transmitter sites are, they're not going to be without IP service. You'll be able to connect in anytime you need to. Max Connect on the web. Again, we'll have that link in the show notes. I'm Kirk Harnack at the Tuscany Suites and Conference Center, and I'm here with Scott. Hi, Scott. Scott Hanley. Yeah. Good to see you.
Likewise. Great to be here.
And I had not, if I'd heard your name before, I hadn't realized it, but I asked you to come in because you have a very important job with the Association of Public Radio Engineers, right?
I'm president of the board, have been for over a year now, although I'm not a practicing engineer, I have done engineering and whatnot, but I've been a GM for the last 35 years. So, so they kind of recruited me on the board back around 2016, and having a lot of fun with the organization.
Well, now this conference, do you know how many years this has been going on?
25. This is our 25th anniversary.
Congratulations.
It was started originally as something that NPR started back 25 years ago, as we were trying to craft the Content Depot and get that working and rolling. And then a couple of years later, I was chair of the distribution committee that helped make that happen at NPR. So it's all kind of evolving as all the technology evolves and our audience experiences evolve.
What would you say to other station managers who may be in a position of deciding, am I going to send my station engineer to this event next year?
Well, I said it when we did the opening comments this morning. In the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, it's always be closing. But for engineering and technical people, it's always be learning and always be sharing. And this is one of the rare places where you get with 100 other people and share stories, learn from each other, and make some new relationships that, when you're stuck with a problem on a transmitter cavity that you can't resolve, you have somebody to call. Because the community of engineers is a pretty remarkable thing, not just in public radio, but in all of radio.
You mentioned community, and I've actually found this to be true. I guess, when people are kind of working toward a common goal or in a common organization, even though public radio stations are held differently. I started in public radio myself at Eastern Kentucky University at WEKU-FM. The summer that I started as, a 14-year-old intern there, playing tapes of Let's Learn Japanese in amongst mispronouncing classical composers' names. We actually had a transmitter fire, and we were actually down to 10 watts. So we covered the campus, and that was about it. But within a few months, they got the transmitter going, and we were back up to 100,000 watts or something like that. But I noticed that that there is a camaraderie or an understanding and an assumed friendliness among public radio engineers from different markets, different stations. Do you find that to be true?
I think that's totally true, but I think you should take it even further out, because to a large extent, that's what broadcasting is, and that's what broadcasters are. I've worked mostly in public radio, but I started in commercial radio because there was an ethos that serving the public was a part of what you did. Back in the 70s when I started, they were making a lot of money. So that kind of helped having a bit of noblesse oblige when you can pay the bills. And then things changed a bit by the 80s. But I think in general, broadcasters do aspire to some public service for the communities that they're licensed to. And in fact, we're the only media that is charged with serving the public interest, convenience, and necessity.
That's true.
No other media is. No other media is. And that's been true since the Radio Act of the 1920s, 1927. Not even the Broadcast Act of 34.
So when engineers come together here at this conference and they hear speakers like Rob Bertrand and like others who are speaking, it seems to be a very effective conference. Everybody's in the right mood to learn.
Well, they're in the right mood to learn and mood to share, because ultimately everybody's concerned about how they're going to keep things going. We were talking about this earlier today and yesterday. Is keeping a transmitter on the air is mostly easier than it used to be, but your portfolio of things you have to attend to has gotten much larger. Because between what's going on the internet and what your staff are becoming creators, so they may be producing most of their content at home or in the garage or in a basement or in a hotel room. I mean, the ability to do things now is greater than ever, but the challenges in making it good are also great.
And well, you alluded to all the different mediums by which we're reaching people, and of course that's mostly internet, but that may involve podcasts, on-demand items, live streaming, and then the content, the written content that accompanies that, so it becomes searchable by the search engines.
Well, and in fact, we heard earlier from Stream Guys a comment about how people are integrating all the different data results and things in their work. And so much of what's going on in podcasts now still relies on transcription, because we still haven't done a very good job with metadata for any of the content we're creating. So, you're having to transcribe a commercial on your own podcast to make sure that that the advertiser was actually mentioned.
So are we finding solutions? Is it really fragmented, or are things coalescing in some way?
I think things are coalescing about wanting to support each other in what we're doing, but I think the real challenge is how do we grow the next generation? And that's what we'll be doing tonight on our night owl at 7 o'clock this evening, to talk about where's the next generation of engineering and technical support coming from. Because we don't really have the apprenticeship systems we used to have. We don't have the ways for people to be bad to get good, and that's a new opportunity. I think if we can think creatively about how to do it, we'll be a much better system.
We don't have a farm team system.
No, well, because you and I started out doing a Sunday night shift, and I mean, I produced for the Greek Melodies Hour at WAM in Ann Arbor, and did a 90-minute music shift, and then play the ABC Information Network tapes. So I got to be there at the station, got to be the operator on record, got to learn how to do all the things properly, and to be a responsible broadcaster. We don't have opportunities now for 19-year-olds to do that anymore. And so what's the next way to do that? Because I'm teaching in college now, and there's a lot of students who want to create content, and they do care about this stuff, but they don't listen to radio very much. They don't watch linear television at all.
Right.
And most of their content is on a device. And but how do they make it good? How do they make it shareable? How do they make it something valuable and valid and fact tested to make sure that it's fact checked so that's actually accurate? That's something they're interested in, but they're not sure who to turn to.
I like that. I go to a conference like yours, and I've sat in for the whole conferences before. Not every speaker has all the answers, but they sure have a vision of where things should go, and maybe they represent a company. Hey, here's what we can do to help get you to this vision. Maybe one of your engineers says, well, here's what we're doing. We're putting together this A and B and C and D, and we're getting about 95% of the way where we want to be.
Right.
So that sharing is just exactly what you said.
Sharing is so important because no one has all the answers, and if they do have all the answers, they'll be wrong in 6 months. So, keeping communication open is really, really important.
So for other public radio engineers and stations, they want to get in touch with this organization, where should they go to look?
APRE.us, I think, is the site. It automatically comes up on my computer now. But just go to the website. We've got information there. It's not a very beautiful website, but it's effective in getting you connected. Membership is just $30 a year, and it gets you involved in the conference and whatnot. We hope to be doing more with that. And in fact, we will have the conference sessions available online for people who registered for the sessions, and we'll figure out how to make those available for people who weren't able to attend as well. So we hope to get people involved, and also we hope to get general managers involved too, because they at least need to be aware of what's going on with the technology that they rely on for their content.
$30, that's what lunch costs. I mean, I paid that at Chili's yesterday afternoon for a good lunch. So apre.us, we'll have that in the show notes. And can anybody be a member?
Anybody can be a member. Generally, we tie it to station people, but we have associate memberships as well, and we're not too fussy about it. I mean, it's a group with less than 200 members at this point, but people are really engaged. And the fact that we still have over 100 people engaged in this conference, about 80 plus live and in person, and another 20 or more doing it online, that's not bad in these tough times of travel and budgets.
Well, I'm very blessed to work for the folks at Telos Alliance. They're a sponsor, I think, typically every year of this event, but I'm going to make a commitment. I will become an associate or personal member. I'm an engineer, just not a public radio engineer, but I'd like to be a member myself. So
we'd love to have you on board.
I'll sign up this weekend.
All right. Thanks so much, Kurt.
All right, Scott, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, don't walk away just yet. That's the end of our show. We appreciate you very much being with us. We've been live here at the Tuscany Hotel and Suites and Conference Center. I'm Kirk Harnack. We're at the end of the NAB show. Actually, next week, we're going to try to bring you a TWiRT show live from the NAB floor. It's finished on Wednesday next week, so Thursday we're all headed home. So we're going to try to do a show next week, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll work it out with Suncast to see what's the best day to do it. So anyway, we'll see you next week, nonetheless, on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.